the applications of military. We have our own laws and orders. We have to abide by both. So, January the 6th, January the 7th, January the 11th, January the 17th, National Guard started rolling into D.C. The first time in United States history, all 50 states plus Guam and Puerto Rico National Guard were in one location for one time. For an old white man getting inaugurated? Come on, ladies. How many old white men have you seen inaugurated in history? I mean, it's not rocket science. The whole world, we witnessed whatever you want to call him, but for the sake of the first colored person in history get elected. What did people do on Monday back in 2008? What did people do? They just went to work, didn't they? Did you see white supremacists and hillbillies and rednecks and Morgan Wallen fans storming the Capitol? No, you didn't, did you? You sure didn't. You didn't see no Dollar General specials up there. You didn't see no Dollar Tree specials up there. You didn't see no Family Dollar specials up there. Everybody just went to work. So what would be so great that you needed 50 states, Guam, and Puerto Rico on your taxpayer dollar flying all the way for some old white man if that were a real scenario? You have to apply it this way. January the 18th, President Trump, 2021. Executive Order 13977. He put out a protection order for judges, prosecutors, law enforcement, and their families. An executive order for a protection order for all judges, prosecutors, law enforcement, and their families? What was coming, patriots? You know. January the 20th. It is what it is. Quote unquote Joe raises right hand at 11:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is a violation of the 20th Amendment. If you watch the new Melania documentary, they'll tell you the sequence of what presidents go through and why 12 o'clock and 12:01 and 12:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time are very, very important. Every other president's followed this except for what you saw that day. When quote unquote Joe raises right hand, as soon as the oath was administered, dum-ba-da-dum-bum-bum. You're supposed to hear that. 4 of those. After the 4th one, when Hail to the Chief starts, the 21-gun salute is supposed to start. You did not see that day. They didn't show a 21-gun salute. For the first time in the United States election history, inauguration history, they showed 2 different sets of cannons on the same day. They've never shown the cannons at Arlington because they didn't want to get any kind of confusion with the people out there for an actual funeral service at Arlington, and also a real 21-gun salute for inauguration celebrations, and also 21-gun salutes for actual funeral services for when presidents are told that they die. And that's where everybody gets so confused there, because you don't listen. And it wasn't a disgrace. It wasn't a mockery. They're not doing that against the military. The military is in control. The military had say-so. Hey, here's what we can do. We can show people optics. And little old me, little old Army veteran me, saw it and goes, that's not a 21-gun salute. By definition, that's a funeral honors. So the whole world witnessed, quote-unquote Joe, have a funeral honors. The National Guard turned their back on the motorcade. Everyone in the military, we always salute the Commander-in-Chief, and we always salute a moving flag. And to be honest, we love our commander, but we'd rather salute a moving flag before we salute a president. All right, just because the flag holds more significance in another way, because the flag is always there, the presidents are always changing. Keep that in mind. All right, the National Guard stayed in D.C. They didn't leave. The mainstream media told you back then they were staying till March. They never left. That's why libtards out there, the few that are left out there, ain't many, but the few that are left, they're out there, oh, the National Guard are still in D.C. What are we doing funding this? They never left. They've been there this whole time. Which, again, proves the point. All throughout 2021 to 2025, there were 3 things that were consistent around quote-unquote Joe. Only 3 that were consistent but showed you in operation. The insignia that you saw on President Trump's headband that were behind him on January the 20th, 2017. That was President Trump's showing. When all the military walked down behind him January the 20th, 2017. The headbands, like this hat right here, has a headband. All right. Military intelligence, judge, advocate general. Who gathers intelligence in the military? Military intel. Who puts it in a court? JAG. All right. The other one, it sounds like two, but it's only one. Civil affairs and psychological operations. You mean the actual handbook from the United States Army that I was in? You mean, you're going to tell me that civil affairs and military operations, which include psychological operations, is the insignia they showed you around quote-unquote Joe the whole time? And this is supposed to be some kind of quote-unquote coincidence? I don't think so. So that's the only thing that was consistent. The other times they had old Vice President, old Kamala, they had her saluting a regular pilot. What is a regular pilot doing standing beside an Air Force guy in a regular suit with an Air Force pilot in his suit and the pilot sitting there saluting too? People, get your heads out of your you-know-whats. All right? Wreath-laying salutes. If you'll go back and watch, I've shown it on all my podcasts. I've shown the clips. If you'll go watch. And our very sacred, unknown soldier grave. This is why they're showing you it really is an operation, because it would be a mockery. It would have been a mockery, though, on quote-unquote Joe if this was all real time. So you got to go watch. In the wreath-laying ceremonies, when you watch quote-unquote Joe and quote-unquote Kamala and quote-unquote Lloyd Austin, go back, especially him of all people, if you thought he was real, military, go back and watch. Watch this. Present arms. Order arms. You got old quote-unquote Joe, Kamala, and all of them going, present arms. Order arms. It don't work like that. Go watch President Trump. Go watch J.D. Vance. Go watch. Present arms. Order arms. It's details that matter. And those of you out there that are not military, that's why it matters even more. Because when you try to say any of this is hogwash or bullcrap, especially your family and friends out there, you're the bullcrap. Because you want us and you expect us to go by the laws and the orders. But when we teach you these things, especially customs and traditions, and you want to call it bullcrap, no, you're the bullcrap. June 19th, 2021. I'm going to read it for you. Executive document. So, it says, I hereby delegate to the Secretary of Defense the authority and functions vested in the President of Section 1550 on the use of military force and support of partner forces to the Congress. Why would quote-unquote Joe be relinquishing his power and authority as a Commander-in-Chief and President to the Secretary of Defense? That's what this is saying, and it's in Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, that was passed December the 20th, 2019, under whom President Trump, all right, roll down to the bottom, executive documents. It says, by the authority vested in me as president. Don't say the president. And then it turns around, this is why terminology matters. It says that I hereby delegate the Secretary of Defense the authority and functions vested in the president of 1550. Well, who was the president of 1550? That would be President Donald John Trump. So what is quote-unquote Joe doing relinquishing all authority and functions over to President Trump? Well, the order of succession was still with President Trump, because this would be June 19th. Is it June or July? Let's see here. July 19th, 2021. Why would quote-unquote Joe be relinquishing his authority to President Trump? Because the laws and the orders already outlined we were already in a military occupation and a military special operation. See, this is why laws and orders matter from the military. President Trump had already done that with the Secretary of Defense. April the 30th, 2019. He already delegated. And then in Executive Order 13963, the order of succession. If you utilize your new technology, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to AI and you put the prompt in correctly, guess what it'll show? So what would happen in a real life scenario if a president doesn't have an order of succession? It'll also tell you chaos, because if there was something that happened during that time period, it falls back on what? The most previous one. But every other president has had an order of succession except for quote-unquote Joe. So if you'll learn the language and put it all in a chronological order, it'll make sense to you, because verbiage matters. Terminology matters. All right? Now, from 21 to 2025, this is very key, especially you veterans out there. Very key. Y'all got to step your game up because you've been slacking. All right? From 21 to 25, the National Guard were still at the border in Texas, deploying rapidly from multiple states, and also the 2018, 2020 elections were continued in 22 and 24, 27 plus states. When President Trump was speaking the other night, he was talking about the states. He said 18 states. Well, we had in every election, 27 plus states deployed their National Guard cybersecurity teams. Do you know what the cybersecurity teams do, ladies and gentlemen? Exactly. They track live, analog, not digital, votes. This is not difficult. So when you apply the National Guard were still deploying rapidly from multiple states to the border from 21 to 25, and also the National Guard were active in 27 plus states in the 2022 and 2024 elections. Now watch this. The authorization to use military forces that quote-unquote George W. Bush, but the real George W. Bush, not the one of today, but the real one, when they passed that, AUMF in 2001, it only applies to foreign affairs, foreign federalization, foreign. It don't apply to National Guard. Now, check this. From 21 to 25, quote-unquote Joe does not have one single Title 10, Title 14, or Title 32 order or funding. So how would the National Guard operate in states all over the border, elections, and also New York subways? I don't do the Trump dance too well. I look like a praying mantis in a fire ant bed, but I try it. Yeah. From 21 to 25, not a single tariff was terminated. Their presidential authority, the Trade Acts of 62 and 74, not one single tariff was terminated. Not one single Obama, Bush, or Clinton appointed judge terminated or blocked a tariff from 2021 to 2025.